Oh, so we're going to continue to use the Contacto example that we used before. The branch is Wednesday week 5 from my GitHub C class sharp class project. Um, and what I'm actually going to do is this branch should start fresh. So I'm going to create a new branch. And we'll try the window week 5 done. So it'll be the end result if you want to download exactly what we've done. Okay, so again, the kind of template is Wednesday week 5, and by the end of it, Wednesday week 5 done will be what we have. So first of all, we're going to talk about a database and how to hook up the database today. Double check that I'm still recording. Yep. So for that, you'll need to go to View, SQL Server Object Explorer. I'm just going to pin it over here. Okay. So you should have a local DB. Any of these will really work. I'm using this one, which I think is the default. There's no databases here, so we're going to add a database. Add new data. I'm going to call it Contacto. Okay. And it has no tables in it right now. So we're going to go, and if you right click on Contacto and hit New Query, you'll come up with a little window here. So we've got a little cheat sheet over here of some things I'm going to do. So we're going to cover SQL statements. I'm just going to make this cover half of the screen, and I'm going to minimize that to kind of give us a lot to work with. So over here I've got some SQL statements that I'm going to be pulling from. So the first one is to create table contacts, ID int, identity, one, one, primary key, and then last name var in varchar 100, and first name in varchar 100. So this is going to be a unique identifier that starts at 1 and increments by 1, and it'll be our primary key of the table. Just saying it's kind of the thing that identifies it. And then just last name and first name of 100 characters. So I can run this, everything completed successfully, and if we go over here, right click, refresh, we'll see our table there. Doesn't have anything in it right now. Oops, didn't mean to double click on that. Now let's insert some data. So insert into contacts, last name, first name, values, derm, Matthew. And for SQL Server, you use single quotes. Run that, row added, and we're going to add more, and Roger. Run that. Okay, now how do we know data's in there? So let's do a select star from contacts. Okay, so we've got ID 1, that was initial, ID 2, term Matthew, more Roger. And you could even add a where. Let's say last name equals more, and it'll show. So we got a little bit of data, but now let's actually try to hook it up with our project. So I'm just going to close this for now. And database is on the disk, so it's saved. I'm going to expand this out. Now I've got my little cheat sheet over here where I've done this earlier. Okay. So the first thing we need to do is adjust the contact repository to be, instead of accessing this in-memory data store, if you will, to access one that's not in data store. So just for giggles, I'm going to create a private IDB connection. And this is just an interface that represents the connection. Create connection. Return new SQL connection. Mission. Never remember. It's the lower score B. And then it'll ask you to use system data. Yes, this will ask you to use the system data client. Okay. And then we need to pass it a connection string. So I've got it handy here. And this is just, okay. So what this says is server local DB, MySQL, local DB, database, Contacto, and trusted connection just means use your Windows authentication. Okay. So we got this little private function here we can call. All right. So we're going to use some of this. We're going to replace our contacts. We're just going to delete that. Bam. All right. And we're going to delete that. So we're going to be using var connection equals create connection and put in some curly brackets. So using the special word that means clean up, and you always want to clean up your DB connections. And then we're going, now before we get into this, we're going to do something that's going to take away a lot of boilerplate code. And it's something we learned in the class, so it's really good. So if you go to references here and go to manage NuGet packages, and you type in Dapper, it'll be the top one, 3.1 million downloads, and you hit install. It will take a minute. And this kind of just handles some basic database stuff. So we don't have to. Save some extra code. Okay. So connection dot x. So if we go up the top and we add a using Dapper, and then we go back down here, execute, and we can put a string in here. So we will insert into contacts last name, first name, values, and SQL Server has a special kind of this @ sign to tell you that this is a placeholder. It's a variable, first name. Okay, and then we need to pass those values in it. And how you do with this tool is you do new, curly bracket, and then the names just match up. So last name here matches last name there. Last name equals contact, and then we just assign it. So we want the last name to be the last name, and we want first name equal contact dot first name. Okay, so that will create a contact, but we also need to be able to get contacts. So again, I'm going to erase this line, and I'm doing the using var connection equals create connection, and then connection dot query, and then you do this bracket, and then you pass the type of object you want. In this case, we want a type of object contact. It'll return a list by default. Contact, and we're just going to do select star from contacts. Now what Dapper actually does is it will automatically map our contact database object to our contact object itself if all the names match up. And we're going to return here. Okay, now there's one field missing off this. I need to convert it to a list. By default, it turns out numerable. We actually want has a list in the example, so this just converts it to a list. Now we do need to add one property. So if you go to the models folder, contact, we need to add the ID. Public, it's an integer, so int ID, and get set. Save it, close. Okay. Theoretically, we should be able to rock and roll. Okay, so we're going to play. View contacts. Okay, and I got an error there. Did I misname something? Oh, yeah, I see what I did. I named this Connecto. So we're just going to rename it to Contacto. Let's try it again. Few contacts. So we got our 2 contacts that we added a second ago. If we go to add contacts and test one, last one to add contact, go to view contacts. Bam, we got our contacts. All right, awesome. So let's say we want to edit a contact, right? So let's go ahead and create a function in a repository to edit the contact. So we'll do public, and we'll do void because we don't want to really return anything. Edit contact and type object, and we'll name contact. And again, the using var connection equals create connection. And then we want to connection.query, execute, because we don't care about the result. And we want to update contacts, set last name equals to at last name, first name equals at first name, where ID equals at ID. And then we need to pass those parameters in. So again, last name equals contact.last name. And again, this matches up with this. It needs to be the same. And then first name equals contact first name, and contact.id ID equals contact ID. Boom. Okay. So that gives us our edit, but we need the ability to actually edit it. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to views, go to home, and go to contact list. Now what I'm going to add here is another TD. I'm going to do an at html.action link, edit contact, and the function it will call edit contact, and it will pass the ID of the contact. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and add that just so the header looks good. Okay, save. Now let's go ahead and start this, see how it looks. Okay, view contact. So now we have an edit contact. It will probably crash if I click this button. If you'll notice, down in the lower left-hand corner of my screen, you'll see that its link is edit contact 1, edit contact 2, edit contact 3. If I click on it, it fails. That's to be fine. So we'll go ahead and close this. And we'll go to our home controller. Now, we'll go up here to where our home controller is, and we will add a new public action result, edit contact, return view, edit contact, and we will need to pass in the ID, int ID. Now, we don't have a way of getting a contact, so we'll add one of those over here. So public contact get contact, and we'll pass it the ID. And again, using var connection equals create connection, return connection dot query single in this case because we only want a single result, contact, select star from contacts, where ID. Let's add ID. New ID. Actually, contact ID. That way there's no disambiguity. Contact ID equals ID. Okay. So if we go here and we do our contact repository dot get contact and pass in our ID, save it. Now let's go ahead and see what happens. Now what should happen is it will fail because it can't find the edit contact screen. Yep, so it can't find the edit contact screen. That's perfectly fine. And actually what we're going to do is we're just going to copy the add contact, paste it in. I'm going to rename it to edit contact. I'm going to go in here and change the title to edit contact. Begin form. I'm going to call change contact. It's the function I'm going to call. And first name. And we're going to call it edit contact. And we've got to do something a little different here. So what this means, we need to pass the ID, but we don't want to show it anywhere. And edit contact. Save that all up. And then let's go ahead in our home controller. Public action result. Change contact. And it's going to take a contact. And then what we want to do is contact repository.update. Did I add an update? Edit contact, and then we're going to return view, and we're just drop you back into the contact list. Contact list, contact repository.contacts. Build it. Okay. And let's cross our fingers. So then if I go to view contacts and I click on edit contact and I type in Richard and I hit edit contact, you'll notice it's changed. Now the cool thing about using a database is if I close this and then I restart it back up, go to view contacts, you'll see my changes actually persisted. So what I'll leave an exercise to the reader or the listener is to actually create a delete contact in much the same way. So that's basically it. There's a few things here that you wouldn't do in a production environment, but for our purposes, they're all right. So, all right. Thank you very much.